The Indiana Hoosiers are hosting Minnesota tonight inside of Assembly Hall, and Mike Woodson has a chance to win his fourth straight over the Golden Gophers.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen each and every day. Your go-to podcast, your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. Thank you so much for all the everydayers out there. Whether you're on YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel, help us grow. We're continuing to push towards 1,700 subscribers. We're pushing our way to 17, then 18, and then eventually on to 2,000. So if you have not subscribed already, be sure you do that. Like the video if you're on YouTube, and if you're on any of your podcasting platforms, we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So be sure you subscribe on there if possible and turn on your push notifications for every time that we go live. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Indiana hosting Minnesota tonight, and Mike Woodson can go on a little winning streak against the Minnesota Golden Gophers, as he has beaten them all three times he's played them. This could be the fourth in a row, and I'm going to tell you why they are going to do it. Minnesota coming to Assembly Hall tonight, playing on FS1. Indiana coming off of the brutal, horrible, disgusting loss against Rutgers on the road earlier in the week. And then Minnesota, if you haven't noticed, they're 12-3 overall, 3-1 in conference play, and they're on a little bit of a winning streak of their own that they're trying to hold up here, as they are on a 7-game winning streak thanks to back-to-back wins in the Big Ten over Michigan on the road and then against Maryland. They've also beaten in the Big Ten Nebraska, a team that Indiana could not beat, and then a loss on the road to Ohio State. So these two teams have very common opponents exactly here in the Big Ten so far, and Minnesota comes in again with that 7-game winning streak, but Mike Woodson trying to win his fourth game in a row against this Minnesota team, and I think Indiana's going to do it. Now, I'm not going to take the bait here, and I'm not going to come on here like I did when Indiana went on the road against Rutgers and say that this is automatic, 100%. Indiana's winning this game, and you can't convince me otherwise. I have taken that before. I have fallen into that trap before, and I think I've learned my lesson about this team. But here's what I'll say. Indiana is a better team than Minnesota. I firmly believe that. They're more talented, and they're just the better team. Now, the question is, are they playing better than Minnesota right now? And I think you have to say the answer is no, because, again, Minnesota's on a 7-game winning streak. That includes wins over Nebraska, Michigan, and Maryland. Now, here's the thing. With that overall record of 12-3 this season, Minnesota has one of the worst, and I mean one of the worst, strength of schedules in all of the country. 9 of the 12 wins for Minnesota have come against teams ranked 232nd or lower in KenPom, and they're 0-2 against Quad 1 opponents. Their strength of schedule is 347th in the country. Let me say that again. Their strength of schedule is 347th. That's horrible. That's terrible. And the 2 times they played legitimate teams in Quad 1, those are the wins that count for the NCAA tournament, they've lost. One of those being against San Francisco, where they got the doors blown off of them when they lost 76-58 to San Francisco way back in about the first quarter of the season. So we don't really know what this Minnesota team is. How good are they really? All their wins have come against teams. And some of you are going to say, well, they've beaten the same teams that Indiana has. Well, Indiana's wins are turning out to not be all that great so far in the Big Ten. I thought the Michigan win would be a lot bigger than it is, and that seems to be about worthless as of now. So how good is this Minnesota team? I think we're going to find out. But for Indiana and head coach Mike Woodson to get that fourth win in a row against the Golden Gophers, who are by far having their best season under their head coach right now, you've got to do a lot of things better than you did against Rutgers the other night. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about keys to the game here on the show and all that good stuff here on Locked On Hoosiers. And as we begin to look at that, there are a few things that Minnesota does well. Minnesota shoots the three ball really well. They also assist and pass the ball extremely well. They are second in the country, in the nation, with the assist column in basketball games. What does that tell me? It tells me that they share the ball, they work for good shots and work for better shots, or maybe even passing up good shots to take better shots. And they like to get the defense running, because I always say this in basketball, no matter what level it is, the defense doesn't move until the basketball moves. And so when you start making passes and you start making effective passes, the defense moves when the ball moves. And when the defense starts moving, holes get created, shots become available, and scoring opportunities arise. And that's what Indiana has to be preventative of with this Minnesota offense. They're looking for great shots. They're going to make the extra pass, and they're going to have this Indiana defense shuffling their feet and running and trying to play catch up if they're not careful. They shoot a lot of threes. They also make a lot of threes, does this team. They shoot 36% from behind the arc. That's pretty darn good. They've got guys that are shooting 30%, 40%, 50% so far this year. And that's what they're looking for. I mean, that's what they've made 126 threes so far this season, has Minnesota. They are looking for the open shot. And again, they're going to make that extra pass and get this defense running. And what are the things that Indiana's bad at on defense? 3-point defense and not shuffling and not communicating. And they always are running after shooters and trying to catch up to them. Half the time they foul them. Half the time they just give up an open shot. The Hoosiers have to be aware of that here. They have to be aware of that. And for Indiana to beat Minnesota and continue the streak of 4 in a row for Mike Woodson, and for the Minnesota Gophers to finally, or the Golden Gophers, I should say, to lose in that 7-game win streak, Indiana has to guard the 3-point line and stick to your man. And when they set those screens, communication has to be key. Good thing is you're at home, right? You're at home. You're in Assembly Hall. You're not playing on the road, where Indiana has played horrible all year long. You have typically played pretty well at home so far this season, for the most part, against higher level teams, conference teams, and some of your higher non-conference games. Communication should not be a problem on defense. It'll be loud, but that should affect them, not you. Switching screens, switching players, communication before the play happens, that is where the Hoosiers can win this basketball game, and I think they can. And coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we'll talk about some more keys to the game, what the Hoosiers have to do, and kind of what happens after this game looking ahead. There's a big one coming up next week, but Indiana cannot worry about that just yet. They've got a solid and very confident Minnesota team coming to Assembly Hall. We'll talk some more keys to the game coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We have NFL playoff games coming up this week. It's time for you. Oh my goodness, excuse me. It's time for you to get involved with FanDuel this weekend for the NFL playoffs. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets. Win or lose, you don't have to win. You can lose the bet. You're going to get $150 in bonus bets just by placing a $5 bet. The app is very easy to use, and you can use it in different ways with same-game parlays, making a parlay in the Parlay Hub. That's what I like to do. It's where you can find the most popular ones that they'll create for you, bets in the Explore tab, and just a lot more. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. I appreciate you making this your first listen each and every day. Be sure you comment down below about what we're talking about. I always read your comments, want to hear what you have to say. I know there's a lot of frustrations right now and maybe some angry fans, not with me, I hope, but with Indiana basketball, but a chance to respond here with Minnesota. So comment down below. I read all those, and I want you to be involved in this community. And you can do that by subscribing to the YouTube channel as we grow towards 1,700 subscribers. Man, we have grown like crazy since I took over. So thank you so much for that. And if you're on audio, we're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Indiana hosting Minnesota tonight inside of Assembly Hall. I talked about communication on the three-point line defensively for this team in Minnesota that passes the ball extremely well and they shoot the ball extremely well. But I really am curious on what's going to happen when this Minnesota team goes up against what's probably the best talent, the most talent that they've played this year. I mean, you look at their schedule and they played Missouri out of the SEC. That's solid. They lost that game by 2. They played that game against San Francisco and lost by almost 20. They lost by 18 points. They lost on the road to Ohio State. That's a really talented team, but Indiana beat that Ohio State team. And then they've won every game since. This is the most talented team Minnesota has played by far. Like, I don't even think it's close. So how will all of these trends stack up against the Hoosiers? Now, they've got some players. There's no doubt about that. They've got some players, and the Hoosiers have to be ready for it. They have, listen to this, they have 4 guys, basically 5 guys if you round up, that average double-digit points. You have Dawson Garcia, who came back for his senior season, averaging 17 points a game. He's a forward. That's going to be a nice battle with him and what I think would be Malik Renew, but you see Woody kind of switch that up sometimes. You have Mike Mitchell Jr., a guard who averages 11 points a game, also averages 3 rebounds, 3 assists, shoots 45, almost 46% from the field, 82% from the line, and 41% from deep. Here's the question. Who guards him? Is it Trey Galloway? I don't know. Who's it going to be? And who can you trust on defense to guard a guy like that that's a double-digit scorer night in and night out? You have Joshua Olajoseph, a forward who will have a very big day down low if Indiana does not stop him. So you're looking at Malik Renew and Kel'el Ware once again defensively. How can they hold their own on that side, and how can they take advantage on the offensive side? Olajoseph averaging 11 points a game. Doesn't rebound the ball very much. Just 2.5 rebounds per game. But he shoots effective from the floor, 62%, almost 63. That's Kel'el Ware type numbers. 73 from the line and 50% in just a few 3-point attempts. And then Cam Crystal averages 10 points a game, 3.5 rebounds. He's another guard. So look at those 2 guards, Mike Mitchell Jr. and Cam Crystal. Or is it Crystal or Christie? I can't read it. Christie, apologies. Cam Christie, averaging basically 22, 23 points a game, and they shoot the ball extremely well all over the floor. So here we are again with a defensive challenge for the guards for Indiana. Is it Xavier Johnson? Is it Trey Galloway? Is it Gabe Cupps, who, let's be honest, I think Gabe Cupps has played the best guard defense we've seen all year. He at least holds his own. No, he doesn't get a stop every time down the floor, but he plays harder than any other guard. He plays smarter than any other guard, and he holds his own better than any other guard because he doesn't fall asleep. He doesn't give up on plays like we've seen Trey Galloway and Xavier Johnson do. And I also think CJ Gunn can be helpful here as well because he plays with so much energy, and he's got a little bit more length than some of those other guys outside of Galloway. But I just don't know if I trust them on defense. And offensively, they have to be more involved. We have talked about that, how the guard play has to be better. And there are so many of you, and I'm not saying you're wrong, there are a ton of you that are just cashed out on Xavier Johnson, on the 6th-year senior. And look, I get it. I do. I understand. I totally get it why you are checked out, cashed out, get him out the door. But we can't afford that. I mean, let's just be real. Whether you like the guy or not, and like how he plays or not, we cannot afford to lose a guard here because we're already short-staffed, if you will, at the guard spot. And if we can't trust Trey Galloway and we're having to go to our bench for CJ Gunn and Anthony Lee or Gabe Cupps or whoever, like, we're in trouble here. We're in trouble. And then the question becomes, as we kind of continue with some keys to the game, where do you get points from? Where do you get points outside of your big 3 of Kel'el Ware, Malik Renew, and Mackenzie Mgbako? Because they've proven they can do it. They've proven they can score and kind of hold their own and kind of carry their own weight. But Indiana's not getting points from their guards or from their bench. And that is a major, major issue. You cannot afford to do that. Now, I think defensively, Minnesota's good, but I also think Indiana's good defensively if they can avoid giving up some threes. It's not like this Minnesota team scores a bunch of points. Here's what they've done in their Big Ten games this year: 74 against Ohio State, 76 against Nebraska, 73 against Michigan, and 65 against Maryland. So, and those are not good defensive teams. Minnesota's just not good offensively. So if Indiana can play legit defense, especially on the inside in the painted area, Indiana's going to have every opportunity to win this game. And we've already talked about how they play a lot better at home. This is all about the Indiana offense, in my opinion. I think if the Hoosiers can find some momentum, find some rhythm, get out and push the ball in transition, please, they're going to win this game. They're going to win this game because Minnesota can't stop you. I don't think they have the size or the athleticism to stop Indiana on a consistent basis here. And the Hoosier defense should be good enough to stop Minnesota. Let's just be real. We're having this conversation right now about if Indiana can stop Minnesota. They can. They absolutely can. It'll be on the guards' defense. It'll be Indiana's guard defense. And it'll be Indiana's offense from the guards as well. I'm putting all the emphasis on those players right now. All of it. If they have a good game, Indiana can win. I think Indiana can win by double digits if the guards play well. And according to ESPN's matchup predictor with the ESPN analytics, whatever numbers they decide to pull from that, when you round up and down to even numbers, they're giving Indiana a 65% chance to win in this game. And so I ask you, do you think Indiana has a 65% chance to win? Do you have that much confidence in the Hoosiers coming back home where, again, they've played much better than they have on the road in conference play and overall this season? Or do you think it's a little bit less than that? Can Minnesota come in here and win this game? Probably. Yeah, probably. If you play like you did the other night, turning the ball over, getting out rebounded, not playing with any heart whatsoever, yeah. Minnesota, I guarantee they believe they can win this game, and they're going to come into one of the best atmospheres in all of college basketball and try to do just that. It's on Indiana to win this game. Nobody else. Minnesota cannot do enough to beat you if you play your best basketball. That's what I'm looking for this Indiana team. Get Mike Woodson that fourth win against Minnesota. Get back in the win column. End their 7-game win streak, and let's look ahead to what's coming up next week. But don't do it yet. Do it after you beat the Minnesota Golden Gophers on your home floor here in Bloomington. Well, coming up here on the show, our final segment, we will kind of look ahead, kind of what is on the horizon, what happens if you win this game, God forbid what happens if you lose this game, and what's coming up for a big, big week in Indiana men's basketball. We'll give you some updates about the women's team as well. That's all coming up here in just a second on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by GameTime. Look, you shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. I just bought tickets from GameTime to a concert coming up in about a month or so. Very, very excited that I'm really, really looking forward to. And it was fast, it was easy, and pretty much effortless. And so that's what GameTime strives on. They are the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Again, I literally just bought some, and even though I bought them early in advance, they still have last-minute tickets, flash deals, and zone deals, and my favorite part, views from all seats in the venue. I got to see exactly where I'm going to be sitting, what I'm going to see, and I loved that about it. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total upfront. I knew exactly how much I was paying, and you know you're getting a great deal before you check out, and it takes 2 taps. You can buy tickets in seconds, literally in seconds. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with the GameTime app. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back into our final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. I appreciate you making this your first listen each and every day. Shout out to the everydayers. You're the reason that we are here. I will give you an update on our subscriber count. Would love for you to become a part of that. And you can just hit the subscribe button. It is free. It doesn't cost you anything. Helps us out tremendously. And you can become a part of this wonderful family. You can subscribe, like the video as well. And if you're on any of your audio platforms, well, we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. You can subscribe and turn on notifications there as well. We are at 1,629 as of this recording. So we got to get more. Let's push to 1,700. Why don't we? We got to grow this thing. We need people to know about Indiana athletics and become a part of this wonderful family. So thank you so much if you are already. Indiana hosting Minnesota. Let's talk about the what if. What if Indiana wins this game? Or what if Indiana loses this game? And kind of what's coming up for the Hoosiers in these next couple of games, as they are 11-5 right now, 3-2 in conference play. And here's what's coming up for Indiana. You've got Minnesota tonight on a Friday night inside of Assembly Hall. And we all know what's coming up next week. We all know what's on the schedule. Indiana knows. Mike Woodson knows. The players know. Us fans know. Everybody understands the game that's coming up next Tuesday night when number 1 Purdue comes to town here in Bloomington. It's the biggest game of the year in the conference. It's the team we hate the most. It's the team that we despise the most. And they're still the number 1 team in the country. And they probably will be when they come to Bloomington. I'm not sure who they have this weekend. I'm going to pull it up really quick. They have Penn State this weekend. They'll be number 1 when they come to Bloomington. I have a pretty good feeling about that. That's a home game versus Penn State for the Boilermakers of Purdue. And here's why this game versus Minnesota is even more important. Not only is Purdue coming up on your schedule, that's that 3-game stretch that we've been highlighting all season long. It's crazy that we're already there, right? It's crazy that we are on the brink of that massive 3-game stretch, but we knew it was going to be brutal, right? We knew it was going to be tough, and now you're on the verge of it. At home against number 1 Purdue. As of right now, it's on the road at number 15, Wisconsin, and then on the road at number 10, Illinois. Now, of course, those rankings could change a little bit between now and then, but pretty safe to say you've got 3 top 25 games in a row. As of right now, it's 3 top 15 games in a row, with 2 of those being back-to-back on the road. So that puts a little bit more emphasis on this Minnesota game. You've got to take the wins where you can get them. And that's what sucks about the Rutgers loss and the Nebraska loss is those are not good teams. They're not bad. Nebraska's better than people thought. They beat Purdue, right? But those are games Indiana could have won. And now you have this game against Minnesota where I think you should win. I think you're the better team. I think you'll be favored, but I've been wrong before. And then you get into that gauntlet where, let's be real, the way we're playing right now, there's a good chance we don't win any of those games. You'd like to win one, and don't worry, we'll have a full episode about that probably Monday here on Locked On Hoosiers. But you have to win this game against Minnesota because you can't afford another loss like this because you've got a brutal stretch coming up. And the other thing, though, with given all of that, Indiana can't afford to look ahead. If you start looking ahead past Minnesota and you say, oh, yeah, but look, we got Purdue coming up on Tuesday. I'm so ready for that. We're going to kill Minnesota. We're going to be ready for the Boilermakers. If you start doing that, you're in trouble because Minnesota will come in and beat you in your own house, and that would be embarrassing. So that's what's on the horizon, but you got to take care of business here tonight before you can worry about that. Next week, we can talk about Purdue and Wisconsin and Illinois, who are all playing really well. And then after that, you have Iowa, Penn State, Ohio State, Purdue, blah, 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 right? The schedule doesn't get any easier. And the problem is through the easier stretch, the best you could do is come out 2-2. Like, I really thought Indiana could go 4-0, maybe even 3-1 in this stretch. And you have to win this game to go 2-2 before the tough stretch of the season. Doesn't bode well for us, but it can. If you build on this game, if you can win and build on this, then go into that stretch, win one. Just win one, right? That's going to be the conversation we have is win one of those games. You'd love it to be the home game against Purdue because the track record of us on the road so far just has not been good. I mean, it just hasn't been good besides the Michigan game. Whoop-de-doo, right? But you've got to handle Minnesota. And if you play well offensively and you score the rock with your guards, they have to have a good game. and you defend the three-point line and communicate. Let your home crowd be a factor. Let the fans get involved. Let the fans feel this energy again. Let the team feel this energy. Let's have some fun in a basketball game. Gosh, it's always so serious. This team just seems like they're miserable at times, and losing's not any fun. You know what is fun? Winning basketball games, winning conference games, and winning them on your home floor. That's what's at stake tonight. I think Indiana can do it. I think they will. And then we get to be excited about a really tough, but a really opportunistic, big word, opportunistic chance for this team in the stretch that they have coming up with Purdue, Wisconsin, and Illinois. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. I appreciate you making this your first listen each and every day. Again, if you're on YouTube, like the video for us. It helps us spread the word, share it out, and tell all your friends and family. If they're Hoosier fans, people you work with, let them know who we are. We're growing, and we want them to be a part of it. Hit that subscribe button. It helps us grow tremendously as well, and we are growing like a weed. So be sure you do that. Become a part of this family. And again, if you're on any of your audio platforms, we're free and available there. Hey, check out Locked On Sports Today here on YouTube if you're on the video version. Check out Locked On Sports Today, 24/7 coverage, all of our Locked On shows put into one, nonstop stream. It's really cool. We'll have a bunch of NFL stuff there from this weekend coming up with games, tomorrow and Sunday. So be sure that you check all of that out. We'll have a reaction episode going up late tonight, early Saturday for the Indiana-Minnesota game, and then we'll be back on Monday talking about that big stretch coming up next week. So until next time, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.